Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to see you again, and I hope you are all doing well. Today, because it's Labor Day weekend, I thought it would be fun to answer your most frequently asked questions. But before we do that, I want to make my classic tomato pie. I published the recipe for this pie about 15 years ago, and although it's a little bit trashy, everyone who has tried it has told me they love it. And the first thing I need to do is lightly grease a standard pie plate. I'm using avocado oil spray here. Then, here's the trashy part. You need to open a 7.5 ounce can of store-bought biscuits. So the biscuits form the crust for the pie. And then, with the patience of a saint, we need to arrange the biscuits in the pie plate and then press them into a crust. I find that it helps to smash each biscuit with your fingers just to flatten it. Now, if you live outside of the United States, you might have trouble finding these canned biscuits, in which case you can always use canned crescent rolls. They come in a tube just like these biscuits do. My friend Ed uses that crescent roll dough when he makes this tomato pie, and he said the dough works out perfectly. And here is our biscuit crust. One of the frequently asked questions I received is where I obtained this beautiful cutting board and also my round cutting boards. They were made by my friend Dan Fennell, and I will link his contact information in the description box below. He makes custom cutting boards, so if you want a cutting board of a certain size, he will do it. Now these are the San Marzano tomatoes that you and I harvested yesterday. San Marzanos are paste tomatoes, so they don't have a lot of water in them, and they are just perfect for this pie. Although you could use any perfectly ripe tomatoes for the pie. I used to use heirloom tomatoes for the pie, but the pie was always on the soggy side. So these are very meaty rather than juicy fruits. And I forgot to tell you that I will link the printable recipe for this pie in the description box below. So now we can toss all of these San Marzanos onto our biscuit crust. Clean up the cutting board. And we can salt and pepper these San Marzanos. Then we need to chop up, or rather make a chiffonade of basil. And this is basil from my garden that I picked about 15 minutes ago. And you can use as much basil as you like. And to make a chiffonade, you simply stack the leaves. Roll them into a tight cigar. And make crosswise cuts. And here is our chiffonade. And the basil goes right on top of the San Marzanos. then we need a topping for the pie. And that is approximately 1 cup of mayonnaise, and we blend the mayonnaise with an equal amount of shredded cheddar cheese and mix the two. Another frequently asked question is, what kind of electric wall ovens do I have? They are KitchenAid electric wall ovens, and I do love them. And I do use the self-cleaning cycle, which works a charm. And now I have a question for you. Have you tried this pie in the past, and how did it work out for you? And another question, did you grow tomatoes this summer, and how did they perform for you? Mine did reasonably well. And then we can top this pie with the beautiful, beautiful cheese and mayo mixture and spread it out with an offset spatula, or you could use a spoon here. Now, the nice thing about using either the biscuit dough crust or the crescent roll crust is that the dough for each will puff up as it bakes, and it will absorb some of the juices from the tomatoes. And then this goes into a 375-degree oven until the biscuits puff, the tomatoes are cooked through, and the top is golden. And that will take about a half hour. And while this is baking, we can get started on our Q&A. And I have your questions on my iPad, so we're going to bring this into another room. Several viewers wanted to know how much loose leaf tea I use when I make a pot of tea. I use 1 teaspoon per cup, plus 1 for the pot. A shocking number of people have asked if this house is haunted or if I have ever seen any paranormal activity here. And all I can say is that if this house is haunted, then it is haunted by very friendly ghosts. As for paranormal activity, I will admit that I sometimes come downstairs in the morning. I find pens and pencils scattered on the floor. I find area rugs moved about, but I don't think that's ghosts. I have 2 cats, and those cats are very active at night. Another question that was asked by many is if I have a TV. Now, I think this was asked because you never see a TV in any of the rooms that I show in this house. I know that a big flat screen TV is a popular focal point in many people's homes, but not in mine. I prefer to see a fireplace or a big flower arrangement or a large painting or maybe a piano as a focal point for a room. Even when I lived in a New York City apartment, I hid the TV in an armoire in my bedroom. And in this house, the TV is hidden in an upstairs den. Another popular question was, how long have I been playing the piano? Well, I started playing the piano at my grandmother's house when I was just a toddler. And eventually, probably by the age of 8 or 9, I started taking piano lessons. And I had some really great teachers, including Ivan Kovacevic in Spokane, Washington. And Yvonne passed recently, I am sad to say, but I am in touch with her daughter, Tani, who is also a fabulous pianist and piano teacher in Spokane, Washington. And when I moved to New York City, I continued lessons with Herman Diaz. Herman was a student of the great late concert pianist Claudio Arrau. Here's a question from Kirsten. What do you do for a living? Well, up until a few years ago, my full-time job was as a piano teacher. Today, YouTube is my full-time job. I get to hang out with you. And here's a question from Pam Sullivan Gotzi. Do you have staff that assist working on the gardens and with the house? So much for one person to maintain. Yes, the house and garden are a lot for one person to maintain. I actually have garden help maybe once a month during the growing season, and that is a big help for me. And then every other week, I have 2 people who come in for just 2 hours to help with cleaning. Other than that, I do all of the gardening and all of the cleaning myself. So when you see me cleaning this house in videos, I am honestly cleaning this house. And I try to clean one room every day, so I'm never overwhelmed with housework. Speaking of which, I don't really consider housekeeping as any kind of drudgery. I consider it home beautification. And here's a question from Chris Von Eed, who asked if I am playing the piano music at the beginning of each video. Well, in videos where you see me actually playing the piano, then yes, that's me. Otherwise, the vast majority of the music on these videos comes from Epidemic Sound. Epidemic Sound is a service that I subscribe to and that I pay for. This is from Janine Martin. Dear Kevin, could you please share with us how you keep your incredibly high motivation up for everyday life activities? I have never met anyone like you, and I am 71. I think my motivation comes from having a project I look forward to doing each day. It could be something very basic like cleaning the dining room, or it could be something like making a sweet treat to accompany afternoon tea. And sometimes the promise of a sweet treat is all the motivation I need. This is from Lori Schuer. Hi, Kevin. I would like to know about your house. How many bedrooms does it have? How many bathrooms? What is your attic and basement like? Let me count. So there are 7 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, and 1 powder room. Now, my spouse and I use some of the bedrooms as offices, and one of the bedrooms we use as the den that I mentioned earlier. The attic is rather fascinating, and maybe I will show you that in a future video. The basement is downright creepy, and I doubt that I will ever show that in a video. Red Rooster wants to know, would you give a grand tour of the entire house? That would be the greatest. Basement and all, age of boiler, or what works there are. Well, here again, I'm probably never going to show the basement or the boiler. It's just a standard boiler. And I have given house tours before, but that was many years ago on video. So maybe it's time to do an updated video. And since this house is turning 200 years old in January, I think we can do that video then. A complete house tour, minus the basement. Louise Fritz asks, I have wondered what was the most difficult part of your beautiful home's restoration? And did you find any treasures in your attic? Well, the most difficult part of the restoration was this music room. We had to work on the foundation and we had to jack up the floor. So that meant hiring an architect, and it was a rather large expense, as you can imagine. And yes, I did find treasures in the attic. They were remnants of the wallpaper that was used in this house, and it was great to learn who the manufacturers were and what the names of the patterns were. And that's where I learned that the pattern of the wallpaper in this room is no longer being made, rather unfortunately. This next question is from Rhythmic Elegance. I really love that username, Rhythmic Elegance. Any tips for time management to be productive as possible? What time do you go to sleep? I honestly don't know if I have any actual time management tips to share, but I can tell you that in order to be as productive as possible, I get up very early in the morning, typically between 4 and 5 o'clock. This gives me time to do my workout, have breakfast, food shop, practice piano, tackle a big cooking project, and do some cleaning, and also tend the garden. And I can tell you that I am truly exhausted by the end of each day. I'm usually asleep by 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. Several people have asked about Lizette and how she came to be involved with my channel. I've actually known Lizette since she was a toddler because her family used to live across the street from me. Fast forward 20 years, Lizette has graduated from college with a degree in marketing, and we bumped into each other at the local dog park. She was there with her dog Benny, and I was there with my dog Avery. We got to talking, and I asked her if she could help me with social media because I really needed help with that. And she said yes. She also asked if she could try her hand at filming me for a video. And of course, I said yes, and the rest is history. And I have to tell you that having help with filming and editing really takes a lot of the pressure off of this job. And after we film, Lizette starts editing on her own while I stay in the kitchen and I wash all of the dishes. And then we sit down together and we watch the whole video, and we each make notes and we do further editing, and I do the voiceovers, and we end up with, I hope, a good product to share with you. And of course, many people have asked about my spouse. As I've said in the past, he is camera shy. He does not want to appear in videos, even though he sometimes accidentally appears in videos. But he is my best friend, and we've been together, well, we just celebrated our 27th anniversary. Several of you asked about my dog Avery and what breed she is. We had her DNA done several years ago, and it was many pages long. She is a true Heinz 57. I think she has every breed in her, including Beagle and White Shepherd and Chow. She's not an easy dog, but she does love me and my spouse and Lizette and everyone she meets at the dog park. I hear the oven dinging in the kitchen, so we need to go fetch our tomato pie. And here is my tomato pie, which is too hot to eat right now. So let me answer a few more of your questions. This is from Gail Elliott. Any certain flowers that you are planning to grow in next year's cutting garden? It's a good question, and one I have not given a lot of thought to just yet. But I will tell you that I am definitely going to plant more snapdragons because the ones that you and I planted together from seed performed spectacularly well. You've seen them in videos. I've made a lot of flower arrangements with those snaps. I also want to try my hand growing dahlias and lisianthus. I did buy lisianthus seeds from Johnny's last spring, but when I looked for directions on how to plant and grow lisianthus, everyone said lisianthus is a nightmare to grow. Maybe you've had success with the flower, but I kind of chickened out at the last minute and I did not plant the seeds. Maybe we will try them next year. And then Incredible Designs wants to know, what is your favorite season and why? That's an easy question for me to answer. My favorite season is winter. And the reason I love winter is because I have a lot more energy during the cold weather months. Also, I love to light fires in the many fireplaces in this house. And my spouse and I enjoy having a cocktail and then dinner in front of the fire. And afterwards, we read books in front of the fire. They're very pleasant evenings. And let's see. Sandy asks, when did you first realize you are domestic? I think I realized I loved the domestic arts when I was about 8 years old. That's when I started rearranging furniture at my parents' house. I always felt that I could do a better job with furniture placement than my parents could. And actually, my parents agreed with me. And this is from Wanda. Did you cook as a chef in any restaurant? No, I have never worked as a chef or as a server in any restaurant, although I think that would be great experience. I'm really just a home cook, and I learned to cook when I was a little boy by first watching my mother and my grandmother cook, and I was a big fan of Julia Child's black and white TV show called The French Chef. So I watched Julia Child as much as I watched the Munsters and the Addams Family. And I learned a lot from Julia, and I couldn't wait to replicate her recipes. And Julia and my mother and my grandmother taught me a lot about cooking. Well, I think that's all the time we have today for our question and answer session, although there are many more questions that came in, and perhaps we can answer those in a future episode. Right now, I want to tuck into this tomato pie because I'm starving. My friends, this pie is downright exquisite. I love everything about it. I love the biscuit crust, which absorbs the juices from the San Marzanos. I love the basil. I love the tomatoes, of course, and the mayonnaise and the cheddar cheese topping. This is really a work of art, and it's inexpensive to make, and it's really easy to make. So thank you for submitting questions. And again, if I didn't get to your question, perhaps I can answer it in a future episode. I want to wish you all a happy Labor Day weekend. And until the next video, please take great care of yourself. And I can't wait to see you again. Bye for now, friends.